I'm truly eager to know where we have gone wrong as a society concerning our children. Just the lack of respect for authority that I have seen a lot of, not all, children display. The decline in ambition that many children now have. The bullying in schools that seems to be on the rise. And so many more negative qualities that I have observed just plaguing our children. And it leads to the question, once again, where have we gone wrong? Because what is true is that the present does impact the future. These children could not just be straying from proper morals and behaviors. They could not be just straying from good traditions, just all on their own. There must be influences somewhere in their lives that are teaching them that wrong is good and that good is bad. Let's have this discussion today. My name is Brianna Vernon, and this is the Independent Report. Let's even just begin with the lack of respect nowadays that so many children have. I think I can speak for most people who grew up around the era that I did, which was the mid to late 90s. I think we'd all agree that while we weren't perfect children by any means, one thing that most of us, had in common was we had some level of respect for our parents and authority, right? You grew up hearing that, listen, when you're being addressed by an adult, you listen, you show respect, you address them, miss, no miss, sir, no sir, yes sir, right? And so you had this level of knowing that that is an adult and you respect an adult. Not necessarily fear them, but understand that you are a child and they are an adult, and we were totally fine with that boundary growing up. It was just something that we knew and accepted. So much so, I even remember going to school one morning. I was in high school, and this girl made a snide remark about me. And I remember being so enraged by what she said. And the thing is, one of the reasons I did not even engage really in the situation was because mainly I never want to put my mother to shame. So even in my conduct outside of the home, I was thinking of the image of my mother and the image of my family out of that respect. I also remember wanting to do well in school, wanting to pass my CXCs, which I did, and wanting to pass my CAVE, which I did. Not just because of the ambition that I had as a student, but because I didn't want to waste my mother's money. And so growing up as a child around that time, and I believe times before, we generally had this understanding that you ought to have respect in all aspects of life for your parents, your family, elders around you. But that seems to have been lost, not even to some degree, but to a large degree. And it just makes me think, why? Why? I don't know what is coming up in your minds, but the only thing, or one of the main things that comes up in mind, is that I believe nowadays a lot of parents, they aren't striking that balance to let the child know that you are a child and I am the adult. Growing up, when a certain scene in a movie came on, you had to go around. You had to leave the living room and go to the bedroom. You had to close your eyes when your parent would say, oh, kissing scene, close your eyes. And as a child, many of us, we would listen and we just understood that that's the way it was. We are children and this is how children operate. It's not yet our time to engage or to watch or partake in certain things. And we understood that. Most of us would not even question it because we just say, okay, that's big people things, which many of those stuff were and still are. But nowadays, I believe, as I mentioned, what has caused a lot of those blurred lines is parents aren't really striking that balance and making it understood that I am the adult and you are the child. And so many times, what I see happening nowadays is that parents and children are engaging in the same conversations. Parents will be speaking about something that is totally not child friendly for them to hear. But yet the child is in the midst there. They have not separated themselves from the room where the child is to have that conversation. They've not told the child, go around or big people talking. No. They're having the conversation right there. They're even encouraging the child when they hear some of these children speak like this. And this is not all parents, but it's an alarming amount nowadays when we compare to years and years ago. Some of the conversations that I hear children having nowadays, even in the presence of adults, and I see the adults laughing, and I am so puzzled. I wonder to myself, what is so funny about that? And so that points to one of the issues. And I don't know where this is now coming from, where adults and parents are on the same playing field with the children. I don't know if it's that, or if it's because a lot of people now are having children younger, and so it's like young people raising young people. I don't know if that's the issue. And then, of course, there's the increase in violence being displayed by our children. Violence against other students, against even teachers, against family members. And you just wonder what is going on. What kind of world are we living in where students are attacking teachers? When I was going to school, that was simply unheard of. Yes, you would hear of students fighting students, not even regularly, to be honest, when I was going to school, or at least at my school, but you heard of it. But never in my years of attending school had I ever even heard or seen, much less students attacking teachers. I recently had a chat about this very issue with a teacher from the Widows Institute in Montego Bay, St. James, Lashane Burton. And he was just giving his 2 cents on the situation where children or students are attacking teachers, right? And as a teacher himself, I thought his views were so important to hear. So take a listen to that.
Thank you so much, Brianna, for having me. See, I entered the field of education when I was just 21 years old. And after doing 2 years in, I later quit because I felt at that moment I was too young. And children in secondary education can be very aggressive and ill mannered. I later returned after doing 5 years in tourism. I returned to education and I'm now teaching. Now, the climate and the cloud of students fighting and behaving raucous in schools is evident today, where there is a lot of fight being reported and a lot of disrespect to teachers and to their own peer. What have gone wrong? Why is this matter not decreasing? Well, you see, we grew up in a society where students now are being influenced by many things, by social media, by their parents, and by other adults in their community. When I grew up growing up in rural Clarendon, I remember vividly that my grandmother would pull me to church or bring me to church, but there were other older women in the church who had a very good impact in my life. They could scold me, it would remind me to be respectful just by going to church. And that was the norm, that everybody in my surrounding had the role and responsibility to lead me on the right path. Today, this is not so, as everybody now is living a different life. Even the family value, where people would sit and watch one television, seems to be decreasing, as there is no time for persons to even eat at the dinner table. The days we are living in now is that everybody have a different Netflix account and watch whatever they want. So we don't know what these children are watching. Everybody have a different Spotify where we don't know what these children are listening to. Not one radio with one radio station anymore. The dinner table is non-inexistent, as what parents are doing now is saying, hey, your dinner is ready. Go and share it out when you want. So the influence of proper parenting seems to be decreasing. And so there is no room for relationship, for conversations, of positive conversation and inspiration to be held anymore. As a result, fights and disrespect seems to be on the rise in our school today. So May is celebrated as Child Month, and it's important now that we kind of switch the script, we kind of change and start having conversation with our children. Speak to them about sex, teach them about respecting each other, respecting each other privacy and boundaries, and speak to them about respecting each other in all areas in their lives. Talk to them how to deal with conflict and conflict resolutions, because it is very important. And as children, they are like sponge. They soak up all that is happening around. These children are the future, and whatever they sow, whatever you sow in their lives today, teachers, parents, grandparents, community members, is what they will reap. Thank you so much, Brianna.
I am just so confused by it. It warrants the conversation. Where has the respect gone for self as well? Because for a child to even want to portray themselves in that light, you wonder where is the self-value, what their home life is like. You wonder what they're seeing around them in their community as well. But then again, it is reported that about 80% of Jamaican children are disciplined through either psychological violence or physical violence. And then about 79% of Jamaican children witness physical violence in their communities, homes, and other surroundings. So, if these are the figures, and if this is what they're seeing so often in their homes, in their communities, then this is what they're going to display. Remember, we always said children are like sponges, or they're like mirrors, they reflect what's going on around them. And so it's not really then that confusing when you actually think about the fact of how violent a lot of our communities are. Absolutely not all, because we do have some lovely communities in Jamaica. But we also have those that are plagued with violence or are known for violence and gangs and all these things. And so if that's a child's reality, then of course they're going to mirror that in their everyday lives. So where do we go from here? how do we protect our children from themselves at this point? Because many of them don't realize that when they are portraying these types of behaviors, they are not only bringing shame and disgrace to their families, but they're also bringing shame and disgrace to themselves. They're also painting a picture of themselves that makes them less likely to be hired for certain jobs, less likely to be considered for certain types of opportunities in life. They're keeping themselves in a box without even realizing. But many of them, I realize nowadays, they don't even care. That is the biggest part of the issue for me, that they don't even care. Where has the self-respect gone? Even when it comes to ambition and their education, going to school and passing your CXCs, it was such a goal to look forward to, going to school. I remember when CXC results came out and my entire family was in the living room waiting for me to log into that portal to get my results. It was a family affair. So much so that you, the child, you were like, oh my God, I hope I pass because everyone's waiting to hear my results. Nowadays in Jamaica, you still have children who are excited about that as well. I see all the posts many times on social media. But on the flip side, there is such a rapid increase in children who don't seem to care one bit. They'll be like, fine, suspend me, expel me, I don't care. And I think a lot of it has to do with what they're exposed to on social media, our children, especially when they see everyone just trying to be a social media star on TikTok, trying to be an entertainer, getting famous, making money off social media, which is a very lucrative business. I'm not going to lie. But I have to also add that I don't believe social media businesses are 100% stable in terms of them being the only venture that you have going for you. An additional venture, by all means. But I just see social media as something that's so fickle, you know? And so having an education, having a standard education, having something to fall back on, to me, is still so important. But a lot of these children, it's not even that they are seeking to have that first layer first or primarily, but they are focusing on becoming social media stars, which is such a congested industry. It's almost like how I know so many people in Jamaica, we are known as a country where a lot of our people strive to become artists. Everybody wants to studio go record. All who no sound good, but that's a different topic. And a lot of these people who are doing this, that is not what they're destined to do in life. But because they see the glitz and the glam, and some of the men see all the girls that chase them down and all the excitement, and some of the women see the fame and the fun that comes with it, they assume that this is the path they should take, when in reality, we've seen it proven by so many entertainers internationally. Music, unless you are a superstar, music won't make you that much money. What made Rihanna a billionaire? Her businesses. What made Selena Gomez a billionaire? Her businesses. She started Rare Beauty a few years ago, but she has been in entertainment since she was a little girl. So our priorities, the priorities of our children, they are all over the place. And I can only blame the surroundings they grew up in, so their family structure, communities. And when you grow your child properly and you send them to school and they mix with other children who do not give two cahoots about their life, then they now influence your child. And so as a parent, you have to be so careful and so involved in your child's life, even now more than ever. And so many people are scared to have children because of that, because they are just fearful of the type of impacts that they'll have to protect their child from. When it comes to mingling with other children, when it comes to just the outward influences that are so much nowadays. When it comes to the outward influences that are just rampant and on the rise nowadays, the negative influences at that. I say we need to go back to some stern parenting, not harsh parenting. We need to cut out that gentle parenting where we are tiptoeing around our children and when we are raising them solely on tablets and the internet, and they don't know how to live life as a human being. We have to get back to the stage where we were involved in their lives. Every aspect. As a parent, you should be involved in every aspect. You should be able to go through your child's phone, go through their, not about privacy. Oh, my privacy. What privacy? You're a child. What privacy? What is on your phone that your parents could not be able to see? Talk truth. What privacy in terms of a phone does a child want? I'm not saying your parent should just be living on your phone for no reason, but a routine check here and there. What's the problem? Growing up, I remember when we got our first computer. Yes, I am that old. When I grew up, there was no computer in the house. I remember when we got our first computer, and it had a password that only the adults knew. And when I wanted to use the computer, I had to ask an adult to type in the password. No, as a child, one time I figured out the password and I didn't let anybody know, because children will do that. So this is not to say that a child won't be mischievous or be a child. But I never once said, why have you have password? Take out the. I just knew that I'm a child, so there's a password for the computer. I have to ask a parent or an adult for the password, but I'm still a child, so I'm still gonna try to figure it out. And when I figured it out, they changed it eventually, and I never learned that one. I couldn't even go on YouTube when I was young because of all the different types of content that would not be appropriate for a child to view. And with YouTube, you start on this video, then it brings you there, and then it brings you here. And a lot of our children are getting caught up in some of these videos and you don't even know what they're watching. So we need to get back to that. Striking that balance and that boundary, letting a child be a child, not abusing or controlling them, but setting that boundary and that foundation from early on. So when they grow, they understand what it is and what it isn't. All right, so that's it from me. Share your thoughts about this entire topic, anything that you would want to add, what you think about it, whether you agree or disagree, which parts you agree or disagree with, and why that is. All right, be sure to follow Noble Media Network on Instagram at Noble Media Net. And that's where we're going to leave this episode. Once again, my name is Brianna Vernon, and this was the Independent Report.